This is the Biz News Podcast, one-on-one conversations with experts in business and personal development.
Stacey Hall has coached entrepreneurs on how to attract sales, satisfaction, and success, and now says she's distilled her discoveries into a new form of selling, something she calls selling from one's comfort zone. So how's that work? Stacey Hall is our guest on this Biz News Interview podcast. Stacey, let's start off, if you don't mind, by telling our viewers and listeners a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your new book.
Well, there's a lot I could tell you about myself, Douglas. I'm going to stick to the parts that are relevant to the new book, which is called Selling from Your Comfort Zone. And I wrote that really as a honoring of my father, who was in sales all my developing life. We'll say from the time I was young till college years, he was in sales. And as a result, you could say I was in sales training because he'd be listening to the tapes, from the sales leaders, and he'd come home. He was always there when I came home from school because his day would end relatively early. There's only so much of it he could put up with. And then he'd come home and he'd prepare dinner because my mom also worked. She had a 9-to-5 job. And I knew that it was not an easy profession. And so the part that's relevant about me is that when I chose to go into marketing and sales, which I've done all my life, it was to find a way to make it easier on myself and make it easier on other people. And Selling from Your Comfort Zone is a book that gives validation. I can't give permission to anyone, but I can give them validation that these pushy, spammy, salesy ways that have been taught for so long and still are, we all know nobody likes them. They actually don't work because only 3% of all the salespeople in the world actually make any measurable amount of money using them. But they continue, and it's time for them to stop. So that's what I want people to know about me and about the book.
Well, this is the 5th book that you've written. How are you going about marketing it?
Well, there's 3 steps to marketing anything if we want people to pay attention. And we don't want to do it in a spammy, salesy way. We start by identifying who's the audience that we understand the most. Not that we've done the most market research on, but that we ourselves understand, because the reason we have the product we're selling is because it helps us. We know how it helps us, whether it's a service or an actual product. And then who are the people that have those same problems? The beautiful thing is that each of us is unique in our talents and abilities, but there are certain measurable needs that humanity has. Not everybody needs everything, but they fall into certain categories. And so we identify what's the category of need that other people would fit into as well. From there, we go meet people. And, Douglas, social media, for all of its problems, has made it so very easy to meet people anywhere in the world that we would never have met otherwise. By going to places where people with this need are looking for information and making sure we're there and that we're talking with them and communicating with them, not shoving our product or our service in their face, but getting to know them. And that's the engage stage, where I'm getting to know you. You're getting to know me, like if we were at a party and we happen to be at the punch bowl together. And it's awkward silence. So it's like, hey, how do you know the host? How long have you been on Facebook? How long have you been on TikTok? How long have you been on LinkedIn? And you start a conversation from there. And what are you looking? Why are you here? Why are you wanting to be meeting other people? And here's why I want to meet other people. And maybe some folks that I'd want to meet, and vice versa. The conversation can very naturally grow if 2 people want to have a conversation together, just like at a party at the punch bowl. And then lastly, once you've had enough getting to know each other, you can tell whether you're enjoying the conversation with each other or not. And this has been happening for God only knows how many hundreds of years at parties. You get to the point where it's time to go. And you say, I really would love to stay in touch with you. And I'd love to have another conversation with you. When can we set that up to do that? And people will do that because it's like, yeah, I got to go. Let's have another chat. I'd love to know more about this, and I'd love to tell you more about me. And
Now,
people will say yes.
Stacey, help me here. Let's say your goal is we want to sell 1,000 of these books. You can't possibly have 1,000 conversations, can you?
Well, you could, or in that particular case, you run ads. And I do run ads as well. And I also use the support of influencers. Influencers, the more people you have wanting to talk about your book or your product or your service, then it's like you have 1,000 ads going out, right? And so it's another way of saving money, but the principle is still the same. Even if I'm running an ad, I have to run that ad as if I'm talking to the person. So creating videos that talk for me when I'm not there, leading people back to places where we can have conversations so I can chat with the people who really want to chat with me. And that's probably in a group environment, unless somebody pays me the big bucks for a private. But there are still ways to use advertising and get the support of influencers to take my place when I can't be there personally.
I get the impression you probably are not buying time on NBC or buying a half-page ad in the Wall Street Journal. You seem to be talking only about, and correct me if I'm wrong, using social media.
Well, I'm an entrepreneur. Now, that's not to say that I don't send out press releases. I mean, you invited me in because you heard about me. And I'm not necessarily talking to all of America. Not well, I could tell you that everybody in the world is a salesperson of some way, shape, or form or another. That doesn't mean that every person in the world sees themselves as a salesperson. So yes, I'm contacting shows where people who are watching are likely to want to hear about selling from your comfort zone. And I count on the fact that the hosts or producers of those shows are interested in having me be here to talk to their audience as you are. But primarily, my audience is the salesperson themselves. And the salesperson is the person who is communicating directly with the customer. The marketing department is doing the advertising. And so, yeah, I do a bit of marketing myself. I also hired that out. But I'm in the sales role of selling the actual product or service. And that can't be done unless you're a Target or a Walmart or whatever. You have that much advertising and you're counting on the marketing of the products that are within your organization to also do that kind of advertising. Most salespeople don't have that kind of support. So I'm teaching them how you use social media to get to your audience in a very specific way, to use groups that are already created there or opportunities to show up in front of large numbers of people, and then sorting out those folks who wanted to have a conversation with you.
For the small business entrepreneur, is are you saying then print is dead, broadcast advertising is dead? You must go to Facebook or Indeed or something like that?
I would never say that any of those are dead. I'm saying we want to get as personal as we possibly can, as fast as we possibly can. And so if I'm talking to a small business entrepreneur who's doing everything themselves in terms of promotion, or a salesperson who's representing a company, they're looking for, where do I get leads and sales? Well, where you get leads and sales? Social media. It used to be you have to buy leads and get on the phone, right? and they're all cold. Well, social media warms people up for us very fast.
You have written 5 books. Is there a sixth book coming out? Your fingers are reaching for the keyboard right now?
It's a great question, Douglas. I've got to tell you, I never set out to write more than one book. My first book came out 20 years ago. It is called Attracting Perfect Customers. And it was before the social media age. And my approach to I was actually the first person to put attraction marketing into a book, call it attraction marketing. And it was the book for its age. It gave people permission to stop doing business like war. I'm going to share with you that it was so popular so fast, and I was not, I knew how to sell. I didn't know how to manage so much coming in at once, so much abundance that I actually made myself sick in the process. I wound up with adrenal fatigue and was in bed for 2 years and 3 months. It's true. It's true. I relinquished the shares of my company. I brought people into the company, but I gave the company over to them. And I wasn't even sure I'd be alive. There were days that it looked like I was leaving the world. I wound up coming across a product that made a huge difference for me. I have to be very careful how I speak about it, but it made a huge, huge difference in me, and all the products from that company did. I wound up getting well, even though doctors had not been able to find the underlying cause. It didn't matter. Me and this company, we wound up making me well. And people were asking me what happened. So my second book was all about not about the products, but about the things I learned about managing abundance that caused so many people to quit before they even get started, or start and then get stopped in their tracks. And so that book was more of a just pure personal love to help other people not do what I did. The third and fourth books were because I saw a need in the network marketing industry. The leaders in the industry that are seen by all people in the industry are primarily men. Yet the industry is close to 80% women worldwide. It was time for some women's voices to be heard. So I produced 2 anthology books and wrote chapters in them as well, for the network marketing industry. But this book, Selling from Your Comfort Zone, wasn't on the charts except the 20-year anniversary of Attracting Perfect Customers, which actually this is the book that's 20 years old now. The 20-year anniversary was coming up in 2021. And I went to the publisher and I said, you want to update the book for the 20th anniversary? It still sells. Do you want to update it? He's like, I bet you've got another book in there. And I said, well, yeah, but we could just, he's like, no, I think you've got more to say. Go away, kid, and figure it out. And all of a sudden, some things started to show up that were uniquely different from, not that the first book isn't useful, but our society has changed. The world has changed. Social media has made changes. And with the great resignation and people going home and wanting to find work that speaks to their purpose and their calling, this is the book that validates that. And so the publisher and I decided. So I don't say never, Douglas. I don't know what the 6th book would be about at this point because I'm not feeling called to it. I'm not going to say never.
Do you see yourself as an author first, or a public speaker first, or what?
I'm all those things, both those things and more. I like to see myself as a legacy leaver, meaning that I help people through my coaching and consulting get their message out to the world so that they can leave a legacy, whether it's as a public speaker or as an author or as a coach or consultant. And for them to see themselves as something more than, not that there's anything wrong with being a salesperson for a company. And I was just having a conversation about this with a new client this morning. She sells makeup. I said, do you want to be seen as the girl behind the counter at the department store makeup counter? Or do you want to be seen as the person who had a reason for needing to learn about how to use makeup to cover something up that you did not like showing to the world? Because there's a lot of people who are in that same position. And they wouldn't go to a counter at a department store to talk to the person behind that counter about that. But they would go to an expert who's experienced that. That's your brand. Not your company's brand, but your brand. So I hope, Douglas, that answered the question. I prefer to be seen as somebody who helps other people leave a legacy, and then whatever tools they want to do that through, I can teach them how to do that.
One of these days, we'll have to take a look at the business card. What do you have printed on that?
Successwithstaceyhall.com. That's what I have printed.
There you go. And is that where people can get hold of more information again?
Yes, that's easy. I'm staceyannhall.com/home. Stacey with the EY, Stacey Ann without the E, staceyannhall.com/home, or just successwithstaceyhall.com.
Okay. What would you like to add for our listeners and viewers that I just haven't been bright enough to bring out?
Oh, well, Douglas, you've been a brilliant interviewer. You've asked me questions nobody else has ever asked me before, so you had me on my toes. I would like folks to know that I have something called the 8 Steps to a Sale, and it breaks down the marketing piece and the selling piece into simple steps that anybody can follow. So whether you work for a corporation, whether you're a sales manager of a huge sales team, or you're an individual salesperson or business owner, because if you're a business owner, you're a salesperson, you can follow these steps and craft your own sales strategy. It's called 8 Steps to a Sale. And if you contact me through either website, successwithstaceyhall.com or staceyannhall.com/home, just use the contact button. Let me know you would like my 8 Steps to a Sale. I'd be happy to get that replay over to you. It's free.
You've been watching the Biz News Podcast. We welcome your input. Send your email to editor@biznews.com. Thanks for watching.